Welcome back to the Lanterne Rouge Cycling Podcast presented by Zwift. Not just me and Benji here today. We're here with Bas Tietema, breaking up the off-season previews with, well, it is a team preview of sorts, but we're making an exception because Bas, amongst other people, have launched the Tour de Tietema, or TDT Unibet cycling team. And as Bas is a friend of the podcast, and because he's got a different way, I guess, of approaching cycling from the new media perspective, kind of like ourselves, felt like a natural interview to ask why he's doing this, how his year went, because he was on Bingo. Well, I call him Bingo Al, in case you didn't know, this year, how that went, and I guess what goes into developing or creating a Conti team, getting sponsors, equipment, all that jazz, and what their plans are for next year. So, how are you going, Bus? Are you going on December camp with the team in a week?
No, we're not. We're going on the January camp.
Okay.
We have a camp of 3 days, but not the usual Kalp training camp. No.
Okay. I think I drove past your team when I was in Denia, in January. So you're not doing everyone in the Kolobnev Campanats hotel altitude straight off the bat in January. But how was your year? Busy year, lots of different things, back into World Tour races. How was it?
Yeah, it was. If you look back, was really a crazy year for me. It started last October with training like like crazy, like Benji is doing right now, like 20 hours, 25 hours a week.
Well, I don't
Make
train that much.
no, but also making a lot of progress in the beginning, and I think it went all pretty well. And maybe some people will think it was all staged, but till January, it was really not sure if I would join the team. So it was actually like in January when on the second camp that they saw that I make such a progress that I jumped into the team. So yeah, in the beginning it was lots of training and a big transition from the last years as YouTube channel. And then you jump into the races, and in the beginning it went pretty okay. Like I did Tour of Antalya, and I'm not the best climber, and if you are there with, like, you are always joking about the climbing skills of Maresco, but if you are able to in a half a year to be in the group, I think it's pretty decent. And then of course I also saw, like, I did a lot of one day races, and one day races in Holland and Belgium. It's, you have to be like 100% because almost like half of the field don't finish any race. And I think I had a decent level, but maybe not good enough to finish all those races. And I know there is a lot of attention on me as a rider because you're broadcasting all this stuff, making episodes about it, and there are way more riders that are struggling to finish those kind of races. And I also saw that, like, did not finish, and and then it was a kind of a difficult period as well. But I had, like, for example, Dena was doing pretty good race there, so it was some ups and downs, and there you can see also that the stable level, like, of my physic ability was not high enough to ride constant level races. So sometimes it went pretty well, and other times it went bad. It was kind of a lot of ups and downs.
Yeah.
Like a wonderful experience.
When people might not know, but you started off back in the day on BMC Dev Team and so forth, and eventually you ended up doing YouTube as your first cycling career kind of ended out.
Okay.
Your YouTube went great, launching to the Tietema, the Tour de France, whatever, throughout the years. And then you indeed transitioned back into that cycling role. Now, having come from that YouTuber thing before you went to cycling again, also partially because of the double life, still doing the YouTube videos on the cycling adventure you're doing at Bingo, I think you're proud of being a YouTuber. I think when I talk to you, I feel that. But does it sometimes annoy you that if, for example, a Belgian media newspaper comes out and says, "Oh, this YouTuber is in the peloton," Does that come over as a bad thing or a good thing when they say that?
I think it's a fair question because I would have the same question as well when I see other riders. For example, at Skills Shimano, you had a Japanese rider as well, and then
Mhm.
I had the same thoughts about it as well. Bahrain had a Taiwanese one as well, for example. So I can understand the question, and of course, it helps that you have like extra PR value for a team. If I wasn't like if I didn't have the YouTube channel behind it, um, yeah, then the opportunity wouldn't be there. So that question is fair enough, um, and that was also why I only in January I got the news that
Yeah.
I actually came in the team, and yeah, at the end, if you don't finish races and the combination of having that stigma of being a YouTuber, yeah, I can imagine that there, yeah, some point of views of are coming from. Um, so yeah, it's fair, and I have to prove that it's because, like you say, I'm a YouTuber, but I'm not a YouTuber at all. Like you are
Yeah.
editing videos. I've never made any edit video. I didn't edit any video since the beginning. So
Yeah.
I had the idea, and I really believe the transition of doing things different in cycling, but I'm not actually the creative brain behind what we are doing.
And how difficult was it? Because I noticed you had the Cervelo bike sponsorship on the Tour de Tietema channel,
Yeah,
and then you go over to a Pro Conti team with a different bike sponsor. And
exactly.
then I don't know who, if Cervelo is sponsoring the new team, or you haven't announced it yet for the Tour de Tietema team. How difficult was that? Like you're balancing, you have, I don't know if you even had, do you have existing contracts that made it like difficult to ride for bingo as well?
Yeah, it was really that was really struggling because you have on one hand own partnerships, and actually all the partnership we had were quite positive about the idea, and they were really they would say, okay, fair enough, there's a unique opportunity, so go for it. And next to that, you had Josse and Devin who are working with me on the channel as well, and they have their own adventures, and they were still riding on the Cervelo bikes, for example. But it was tough. So if you look well on the social media page of me or like the Instagram feed, you see that you nearly see any you nearly see any De Rosa on the Instagram feed. So um, it was it was not an easy year with so many different stakeholders. Um, so yeah, it was a lot of managing of all those expectations. And for example, during Paris Roubaix, everyone wants something. So we invest a lot in this series because we had a whole media team that was coming all over the place to make YouTube content, and we invest in that ourselves. But when I'm riding, then for example, in the breakaway of Kuurne, then all the team sponsors that are not sponsoring us also want to advertise with us. So
Yeah.
we had was difficult.
Yeah, I get that. I get that. This video is brought to you by Zwift. Whether you're just starting out on your cycling journey or are looking for those final tune-ups ahead of a big event or race, Zwift is the online cycling platform that makes things fun. There are 9 different worlds, thousands of kilometers of virtual road, including replicas of real-world climbs like Alpe du Zwift. There's workouts, training plans, events, and even races for every level of rider. Zwift's massive community means you're never alone on the road. So if you want to know more about Zwift or want to start your 7-day trial for free, head to Zwift.com below. Now, at what point during the stages of your last 3-ish years did the idea come up of potentially we should start a cycling team? Is it realistic to start a cycling team? When was the first idea from it? When did that concept get into creation?
In a really early stage. I think it was at the point that we were nearly collapsing as YouTube channel because it was such a hard time. Uh, just before our first series that we started cycling ourselves, I had the idea that starting from more like a media perspective, a cycling teams from a fan base, there was a unique opportunity to start and create a team. And in that period of time, it was really far away and not realistic at all. But the idea was original from that period of time. And then this last year, the opportunity came by to really set up the professional team. But the belief to start a team from a fan base and with an own identity and starting up from there, that's already a few years in mind.
Can that give an extra bonus aspect to it? Because, for example, with the Wolfpack with Quickstep, it's kind of an identity for Quickstep and might lead it more to being a team that is supported instead of the riders of a team that is supported. Because I feel like cycling has always been a sport where it's more you are supporting the riders, and if they change team, then you're keeping up supporting the riders. But with this concept, it's kind of more that they can support the team, right?
Yeah, I think Wolfpack is a good step forward. But if I see this year with Soudal, the Koenig, and those kind of sponsors that they go, Soudal goes from Lotto Soudal to the biggest competitor, and the Koenig is going from Quickstep to
the carousel.
If I have to tell this to someone that don't know anything about cycling, they have no clue. And then also the identity, the name, for example, but also the colors of the jerseys. That makes it really tough as not cycling follower to understand what are the teams. And I think you guys and me, like for example, Jumbo-Visma is for me the same identity as Rabobank. But the change of colors and the identity that it changed, I think the beat idea of starting with an own name it was a pretty good idea, but we are kind of lucky that we have a fan base already and then start a team instead of starting something and hoping that you get fans.
Yeah, like the new Tug Rider Pro Conti team, Q3 6.5. Like, no offense, but like, what is that?
But I think the same for you guys. If you start tomorrow a pro cycling team, you have a lot of fans.
Yeah.
They will all say, oh, those guys will do it on a different way, making tactics on another level, speaking about their team, and you have the fans.
Lanterne Rouge, we aim to be the last in the race.
The last riders. I mean, I did, because I always, with the Jumbo Visma work, it's like get to work with the best team in the world, and it's kind of ready made for you. I don't have to do all the shit. I don't have to like organize logistics, organize HR, organize contracts, organize bidons, soigneurs.
But you don't have to do that, Patrick. You are the identity. I'm not doing the UCI paperwork.
Yeah, true. I'm a control freak, though.
I'm that as well, but you need then someone next to you that you trust and that he can do all the work, and you are the identity of the team.
What, you're saying that I should be doing all the work for Patrick?
No, my poor wife would have to do it. No, she's better with, like, she runs everything behind the scenes, like edits these podcasts, etc. But no, I like just being able to give advice, and then that's it. At the moment, it's so much work.
I can understand, because you guys have more like a journalist kind of view, and we are way more on the entertainment side. And I think if I see all the race analysis and kind of stuff but it was just saying, if you have an identity, like then you can start with something. And now it's what you say, like a pro Conti team starts, and nobody have any clue what the idea of the team is, who they are, who are the guys behind it.
Yeah, I get that. But we've mentioned a few times now in the last portion of this, we talk about the stuff that goes into creating a team. And like when I think about stuff that is needed to create a team, first of all, money is pretty important. Otherwise, it's not going to work out. How difficult was it to be able to find funding to be able to get a Continental team started from the ground? And hey, if you want to spill the beans, roughly in what margin of money are we talking? Are we talking a bit over 7 figures? Are we talking multiple 7 figures?
Good question. First of all, getting a sponsor for us was way easier than a normal Conti team, because the partners that are into this project are not there because we are riding Ster van Zwolle or other Continental races. They are there for the bigger picture, because, or we don't want to be a Continental team and doing that for 5 years. We want to make a unique story and want to go as far as possible. And they are in for that. And maybe the next years we're gonna ride the bigger races. But right now it's more like a combination of sponsoring, but also buying media value. You have CPM, the kind of stuff that you have on YouTube with ads or banners and that kind of stuff. So it's like a combination of those both. Um, and money wise, um, no, but it's not like something you have to hide from. If you want to go to Pro Conti, you need millions, and I can't say like the exact amount, but um, we are not competitive to any World Tour team, for example. But
Yeah.
we just had an idea. It was just an idea, and in this case, Unibet believed those kind of ideas, and they pay, in my eyes, a lot of money for something that's just on paper. And I think it's up to us to show them in the first year and the second year that the value is there, and that we can be a Continental team with the same media value as a Pro Conti team or maybe some World Tour teams.
Well,
Yeah.
yeah, because what's bigger, Albert Actores Pro Ronde van Drenthe or Ronde van Hank? Seriously, if you look at the data, which actually has more media exposure? Like, I think it's Ronde van Hank. Like races like Giro dell'Emilia with Roglic, Evenepoel, Almeida fighting last year, or Mars and Pogacar this year, literally not on TV outside of Italy. So all you get, say your Movistar sponsor, no one's watched it live in Spain. There's no YouTube highlights. For Masters victory, there's an Instagram photo. That's it.
Yeah.
Like and listen, like with Yumbo, my job's not to give any media advice. That's completely separate. But like, even for them, like, could they? I think some of the they decent job. Some of the teams like Ineos doing a better job. Maybe they're doing the bigger picture stuff. Like they have the documentaries now. But I think the daily stuff, or maybe more the weekly stuff, they're not bringing out good weekly content now. If you win the Tour de France, then to be honest, you don't really need to. But it's all those other races, like how none of the World Tour teams are telling the story about their Tirreno Adriatico or Paris Nice.
No, exactly. And it's a good point that you make there, Patrick, because I think the reason why they make documentaries is because they can sell them in front. So they are making them without any risk of money. So they sell, for example, with Amazon. I think they are now making an Amazon Prime documentary.
Yeah.
The same for Netflix. And when you want to make own media, you know that it costs a lot of time, money, and I don't know, maybe you have a bigger picture on that, but what is in the World Tour team, the team with the biggest media team? I think it's only like 3-4 guys.
I think they have a lot of they hire a contractor, which is expensive. So at Tour de France, they hire a guy or a team to come in and video, but they're not their permanent staff. Yeah, I think it's 3-4 permanent people max.
Yeah, exactly. And then right now they are making something during the Tour de France. It starts when the tour begins and it ends at the end of the tour. And then you have to wait for content for months, for example. And I think that's also something we want to do, is to make like daily and weekly stuff throughout the year. That you make real characters in your own team.
Well, you just mentioned that. So in your contracts with the riders, which we'll get to in a second, do you have they have to commit to certain things on social media? It's not just about riding the bike?
No, they are not going to be vloggers. we asked Devin, or creative brain behind everything, and he said, no, riders don't have to be vloggers. Maybe someone who don't use social media at all, it's perfectly fine if he is in the team. We are broadcast, or like we are filming what happens during the race, or like we are filming like a real life documentary. And only the way how we broadcasted it, how we broadcast it, it's completely different than the traditional kind of stuff. But with Jumbo Visma, there is a media guy in the team every single moment of the day. And we are doing the same, but the output of what we are making is completely different. So I think it's more the way of what you make instead of what you are filming. But riders don't have to be vloggers, and they can fully focus on the sportive part of the team.
Okay, and what schedule do you think you will have? Do you reckon it'll be pretty easy to get sort of invites on the Dutch and Belgian 1.1 circuit? Will it only be national races? Do you already have invites from some races?
But to add to that, don't you think that certain races will want you at their race, knowing they get coverage on your channel?
Yeah, we have a few organizers that already sent an invite, and we also make on our own way a video to show the organizers what we will bring to the race. So normally you just mail like, I want to ride that this kind of race, and I have this rider. But yeah, on Continental level, they have no clue, and mostly it's about the name of a sports director that won the race somewhere in the history, that's making the difference if you get an invite or not. And we are really focusing on what we bring to a race. And yeah, the most it's going to be, we're going to have Dutch races, Belgian races, but next to that we want to also get invited in more like the Tour of Norway, Tour of Britain, Tour of Belgium, the horse category races, or 1.1s also abroad.
And will you require, I mean, for Antalya, with some of these invites, maybe not with the Dot Pro races, but will you try and negotiate that you get to use race footage easily? Like there's going to be, because sometimes, like I've experienced it myself, you're doing the race organizer a favor, and then the race organizer's like, no, no, you can't do that, can't do this. And it's like, okay, Tour de France is different. Tour de France, in my opinion, I don't really do the Tour de France too many favors. Like it's a pretty big race. I do the smaller race. I think I do a good job with the smaller races. But yeah, have you, with those races, will you be getting like access to race footage to use freely afterwards in your videos?
Not spoken about this yet, but on the point 2, point 1, and those lower levels, you have yeah. Like last year in Antalya, they asked us, "Do you guys also want to live stream the race, for example?" So all those races are happy with extra viewers for their sponsors, instead of saying, "Yeah, this is our media rights of the race." So for us, it's perfect to have the first year to show the bigger races, the extra value we can bring, instead of directly being in races, yeah, like the ASO races or the big races, that you have directly a fight on media rights and stuff.
And when we talk about the gradual upbuilding of this team, you start off as a Conti team. You start off with the likes of I'm just blabbing out some Dutch races, Ronde van Overijssel, those types of races. I would expect in year one, based on your explanation. How do you see the plan in the future? What do you see when it comes to the future in terms of, do you see a future where you become a pro team? Do you see a future where you become a world tour team at about 75 years or earlier?
Um, Nowadays, if you say that you're gonna be pro Conti team, people believe that you don't gonna be a pro Conti team, because so many teams are saying it. But I can say that the ambition and the plans are there uh, to make the step already pretty soon.
Because there aren't actually that
Okay.
many Dutch teams. What's Jumbo? Is DSM Dutch or German? technically?
Now it's Dutch.
Now it's Dutch. Okay. All right.
Rompot died.
Yeah.
But
Each.
the idea is to be in the second year already pro Conti.
All right. How much is the bond for Pro Conti? Like 250K or something to the UCI? Maybe that's the World Tour bond. I don't know. But your team, did you go after David Decker?
No, because he signed already somewhere, but
I
not.
think it's public.
But in 2 years, I reckon they're the sort of riders. I'm already predicting what your plan would be, which would be in 2 years to be a more attractive destination than a lower World Tour team than Arkea Samsic for someone like Decker in 2-3 years. But at the moment, you've signed. To be honest, it's like these are better riders than I expected. Honestly, like I'll name one like Kopecky, the two guys from that Conti team. What's it called? A block Conti team. Those two are actually good. Like he came 8th in GC at ZLM Tour, which is what, the biggest Dutch stage race?
Yeah, almost. Yeah.
One off.
Well, what
Since the
other
death of
Dutch
the
stage
Enable Tour.
races are there?
Back in the day, the Bing Bang Tour was half Dutch, but not anymore. Eh?
Yeah, true. I mean, yeah, like he's pretty good. How much convincing did it take to get guys like Kopecky, I'll list a few names, Blum, Bouding, De Vries, Tanfield to join, or do they share the vision of the team as well?
To be honest, in the beginning it was pretty hard because you have to convince them that you're gonna set up a Conti team that is doing it on a different way than all the other Conti teams. And most of the Conti teams don't have the like. It's not really good. It's not a professional organization. A lot of respect for all Conti teams, but it's mostly as someone that's loving the sport, getting some local sponsors on board, and write a good program. But I knew that we're gonna set up it differently, and also what you said, like Benji, with the ambitions we had. But then you have to share that, and like also now what you see with BNB, this is what happens in continental level every single time. So the trust in a new team is so super low. And in the beginning, it was pretty hard because on one hand, you have to contact riders, but you don't have the ultimate sign of a sponsor. And I think this is, I don't know the exact story of BNB, but I can imagine that it's something like this.
I reckon what happened is they went to the sponsors and they're like, we got Cavendish.
Exactly.
Cavendish is going to win the Tour de France, break the record next year. They went to Cavendish and they said, we got Carrefour, Amazon France. They're going to sign up because you're coming. And no one put pen to paper.
Yeah. But you need to go further in the process with riders because there is not much time left with all the subscription or like with the UCI regulations and those kind of stuff. So
well, they did extend BNB for another month to have another month to like get their papers in. So
that's so weird to me. Like we are really rushing to get everything done, and then you see, oh yeah, rules are rules, but not for BNB. They get it feels like. I hope they're gonna make it, and it's not something like to BNB, but it's weird that you have rules and everyone is trying to make the date, and then oh yeah, you get an extension.
So some of these riders, like Jerome Bloom, again, 22. He's done well this year on the Conti circuit and in Dutch races in particular. Looks like a sort of decent Conti sprinter. He might improve. And you got yourself and Tanfield, who rode in World Tour before. What's like a goal for the team next year? Is it to be like, of course you can say win a race, but is it to just be like quite a good Conti team, actually competitive in the races you're doing as a start?
Yeah, and yeah, of course I can say I want to win. We want to win that kind of race, but I don't think that has to be a goal of a team because that's just output. And someone else is better that day, fair enough. But the goal has to be that the most of the riders, when they are able to join with us, to Pro Conti next year, then I think we have then we did a really nice season. And when they are capable of making that level, I think that's more like an ultimate goal of the team.
Is there also an aspect of like when I think about a series on my channel where I'm like, oh, I'm gonna make a series about my own cycling journey. I'm also thinking about the content aspect of it. And do you also think through your races and are you like, oh, what races could we do to make it a good story? Does that matter? Or is that divided? Is the team one part and the content one part that is built from the team? Or does the content ideas influence or the storytelling ideas influence the path that the team will take?
Yeah, you get different layers next year. So you get different types of series. For example, Josse, but the team as well. So it's not going to be that the YouTube channel is the cycling team, but the cycling team has a platform with the YouTube channel. And the most difficult part is when you start a team, you want to film every race. And then you get the next race and the next race and the next race. And the unique thing about making a series is that you're working to a climax. So everyone is watching it, wants to get to the climax. Are they gonna make it or not? So we're now making like a roadmap for this year. What are the top line series that we are gonna make? So for example, Stefan Zwolle, the first openings race of the year, that's the climax. And maybe then we have 2, 3, 1 month silence with the main series, but next to that we get like more the team content, and that's the content that's gonna be there the whole season. So yeah, you get different types of content, but you have to make series because otherwise you just get an overview of the day. Now we are riding Ronde van Drenthe, and now we are riding this one, and then I think people will get bored.
Bring back Ronde van Hank. Has to be brought back.
No, but Patrick, I wanted to say one more thing about like why riders came to my team. And normally it's not really normal to talk about money, but if you see nowadays what riders on Continental level receive from teams and what they need to do for that, like most of them, they are not getting more than 500 euros a week or like a month, sorry. And they have to train full time, and they expect that they are gonna be every single race. They have to pay the travel expenses themselves, and we are not paying way more, like extremely amounts. But for us, it was really important that every single rider needs to focus on cycling and make a living out of it. That they not like, that they are completely broke at the end of the month. So yeah, there's yeah.
Have you noticed during your years as a cyclist that there's also the aspect that in certain teams, riders have to pay to be able to get the opportunity to ride in certain races? Like we joke about it on the podcast that Patrick will get an Androni contract, buy it up, but that's an issue now. He might have to do it
I
with
could get a
Bardiani.
Bardiani contract.
Yeah. Well, you're not Italian, so it might be a tiny bit harder, but
doesn't matter.
No, but the
I'm just that good.
Yeah. No, the situation on Conti level is, if you want to set up a team now, I have so many people asking to get into the team and paying money themselves. And I was happy that we completed the team before announcing that, because it's not a healthy environment, in my opinion, for the amount of time and effort you have to put into it as a rider. Like working at a supermarket without having any talent, with all respect, you get more money than being a semi-professional rider on Conti level. Because nowadays, Continental level, you have to need a serious level.
And you're probably not going to die or severely injure yourself in a normal job. So in the Conti races, you can they still do the descents just as fast. Like you can still fuck yourself up. And you're riding for like virtually no money in most cases. I'm not surprised that you guys. I mean, you just have such a competitive advantage over the other Conti teams, and I guess it makes sense that if you want to be pro Conti next year, may as well start paying above what a normal Conti team pays now, because then that's the trajectory you're on. You're on anyway.
One more question about basically the team now, and also the relative comparison to your life at Bengal in the last year, for example. During your life at Bengal, I personally had the feeling that sometimes Bengal wasn't necessarily, or at least the team wasn't necessarily helping you create extra content around it. Like the announcements of the team were a bit meh. That's my personal opinion. I don't know. And do you feel like, obviously, creating a team will allow for the team, which is basically you guys, to have like more creative control on how an announcement for a roster is going to be decided, how is build up towards certain events? Do you feel like that will add a lot more to the content than last year?
100%. Yeah, lots of respect for the chance that I got from Bingo. I'm really happy with that, but there was so much more in it, and they always saw the value in what we created, but it was mostly afterwards.
Yeah.
And that's if I look back, for example, with Roubaix, and also if I wasn't riding Roubaix, fair enough. That's not the case. But right now, there was so much more in it with, like, for example, announcing kind of stuff, but also for us as a media team next to me, with creating storylines, creating content to make it to another level. And yes, this year, of course, sportive is number one. We have Hugo Haak as sportive director of the general team, and his only goal is to make the team as far as possible in the sportive aspect. But next to that, we have a media team, and that have to be in balance, and they will bring value to each other. And yeah, of course, this year we have that in control way more than last year.
What do you think is going to happen with Netflix? With the Netflix series? It's not going to be F1 level, of course. It will not be Drive to Survive level. But what do you think happens with it?
First of all, I'm really curious because I think the biggest problem is that the expectations are really high.
Yeah, I think they're too
Too
high.
I think it's a good step forward, but now everyone is comparing it with Drive to Survive, and I think that's not fair, because then, I think that's the key. I think it's a good step forward, and you can say everything about ASO and all the teams and the money they get from it, and for in cycling general, I think it's a good step forward, but yeah, I'm really curious, and I hope the expectations aren't too high.
I sometimes, when it comes to Drive to Survive, this F1 series, I kind of got into F1 through that. Then I decided to realize that I don't have time to watch F1 in the first place, so I'm back into cycling completely. But an aspect to that is, do you think that there might be like the fabricated drama that there is in the Netflix show of
Hopefully.
F1 also in cycling? Because that would add a lot
You
when it
don't
comes
need
to
to
content for
fabricate it.
us.
It's there. You just
Could
have
be,
to show it.
Could be with the radios. It's quite easy to change those stuff. But I would like to mention the Netflix is always used now as the thing that created that brought Formula One to a next level.
Yeah.
But I think the key of Formula One was the Liberty Media that bought the right from Bernie Ecclestone,
100%.
and Netflix is one output
Yep.
of that whole transition. And now cycling and the ASO thinks, if we do just Netflix, everything will change and will blow up everything. And ASO is still a sports organization that's doing media stuff next to that. And
Yeah.
Liberty Media is a media company without losing any sportive parts of the sport. It's still really professional. Nobody is doubting that it's not professional enough, but they do it with a different view. And I think that's it's not just Netflix.
No, they changed the graphics, the overlays, the way the races are brought together. They brought in new tracks, more sprint races. The YouTube of F1 completely changed. The growth of the F1 YouTube because of the content plan, completely different. And that's almost more important, frankly, because people go watch the Netflix show. Bang, you got them. You've got their interest for a week. F1's on their mind for a week. Now they got to go somewhere. Now they got to keep that momentum rolling. Maybe it's the off season, before the season, before the next race, and they have the YouTube channel to go to. I know I think YouTube's a lot more important. I think YouTube is like the king of social media, and then there's just a gap to everything else, and probably Instagram second. But yeah, they did all that. Whereas, you know, the Col de Grenal stage should be put up on YouTube in full. It's what Minnesota played the Buffalo Bills in the NFL last week. Incredible match. Score like 5 score changes in the last 2 minutes. NFL just put the whole game up on YouTube, and the views on it are insane because it's one game. What does it matter? Put up one game. It's like the pivotal moment. This is how exciting the sport can be. I think that Vingegaard whole stage should be put up on YouTube. It would get mental views forever, and yeah, but I don't think it will, because don't put the full product on the internet that you're not. Like once the race is finished, it's irrelevant. Once the live event is finished, it's done. And so how can you revitalize that asset and make having you chop it up and make people interested in things that have already happened because you've already paid for the road coverage, the TV, and to not maximize what you've already done, I don't know, seems, I obviously have strong views on it. But yeah, would you, I guess your whole project is taking back control of that. But how much do you personally be writing? And how much you said you delegate sort of the management admin stuff. Are you wearing 2 hats this year, riding and training, plus sort of more in the content team as well with the Austin and Devon?
I will have an active role in the team, so I will be a rider. But yeah, what you just said, Benji, I have now more in control what my program is going to be. Then I'm going to write a whole program from January till October with all um, the the things that I have to do next to that as well. So it's going to be more like making a program that suits to me. So, for example, kind of stage races or maybe a point two race level. Um, so I'm gonna make a schedule and I'm gonna have an active role and have to train really hard. But I am also realistic. I'm not gonna win Tour of Flanders. I'm not
Yeah.
able to train the same amount as Wout van Aert does. But
And how much is the percentage of you in the content about the team, for example, versus other riders? Because, for example, let's say another rider of the team, I don't know, how much are you going to be in the team content versus the other riders, or is that relatively equal?
I hope that the other riders are gonna be much and much more in the picture than it has to be about the team. And also the for the future as YouTube channel, now it's all about Josse, me, and Devin. And you guys will probably know it. Also, um, it also brings a lot of pressure from constantly being there, always have to be in the picture, or yeah, um, being at certain events. And with creating a new identity with a team and with other riders and other people. I hope it will be more like Tour Tietema as general, as a brand, instead of or three as 3 guys. And of course, we will have a really important role, but there has to be content as well if the 3 of us aren't there.
That's what GCN kind of did that transition. Like they were always a media company. Like they got sort of an investment amount from YouTube. and it was always a media company like first, built by Simon Ware, but he was never in the picture. No one really knows who he is, except sort of people in the cycling industry. And they had the three presenters, and then they just Dan's still there and Simon, but Matt Stevens left, and they rotated in new presenters and just I guess kept the machine rolling. And I guess by having that GCN brand first, supported of course by like the perception that it was like three mates, the GCN brand was able to live on when people want to do different things. Because yeah, like that's what I worry about. Can I do highlight videos forever? Probably not at this pace during the season. Like I got burnt out, especially with the Jumbo work on doing as well, which is like a lot of work. And that's for another 2 years. And then the podcast, and then I do other stuff as well outside of cycling. Like, yeah. But then I always think, well, no one's going to do it as good as me. No one's going to quite do it. And I do maybe that, but that's not true. Like someone could chop up the footage better than me and more efficiently than me. They could. Now maybe they couldn't be as funny with the voiceover, but the chopping up, which I do everything, maybe someone could do that better than me.
Yeah, and if you want to scale up, you need to get, you need to use the experience and the abilities of other people's as well. Even when you think, it's the same with us. Devin thinks he can make the best videos, but then he is going to be like a, how do you call it, a painter that makes one video a month. But if you want to scale up and make more content, you need to work with a team. And then maybe you lose some kind of quality because you always think you can do it better. But yeah, it's a choice. Are you more like a creator, or are you more like a business?
Yeah, I guess it's tough. The pod, I don't really see how we can delegate. Of course, editing, neither of us do anymore. But how do you delegate the podcast? But the podcast is very time efficient. It's the most
I've got
time
an
efficient.
idea.
Yeah.
There's how about to use AI technology to do like the audio and the video now? What is it called again? When they like fake it?
Yeah. And it just says and so forth. We just program it to say our very sayings. Probably could do it, to be honest. Yeah.
But why are you guys not the official Analyze podcast or like YouTube channel of the Tour de France? That's something I still don't get. Like when the stage is done, that they say, "Oh yeah, we are co-working with those guys. They do the analytics."
Well,
I still don't get it.
Well, the Giro reached out, actually, but they didn't want to pay anything. And then they wanted the podcast to be like almost exclusively on their RSS feed. And I was just like, you just don't get it. You just don't get. I was like, you should be paying us. No, I mean, we do it anyway, cover the Giro, but we could of course do different. Now there are some smaller races reaching out because we only cover World Tour races generally. Like, oh, could you do a podcast? Could you do daily recaps of each stage of our race? But yeah, I would say have the race organisers fully appreciated and maximised what we can bring? No. Is that surprising? No. Do I care? It doesn't keep me up at night. We just keep doing what we're doing, and opportunities will come. Now, maybe, to be honest, what I think is the angle is live commentary. Like, if you're Sportser, you got to get Benji in, right? Because he's young.
But I'm West Flemish. That's the issue.
Is that not allowed on Sportser? I don't know.
It probably is because like one of the, I think Karel van Nieuwkerk is also West Flemish, the guy that hosts Via Velo, but I don't know.
Well, why wouldn't they do that? I mean, of course, you don't have maybe with the older generation, the name recognition, of course. But I mean, I'm not saying put you on the Tour de France. Let's settle down. Like, I mean, like, but you could do some smaller races.
Tour de France or nothing.
No, but I was asking this because if I look to us with setting up a team, you have to look really into like what's your role in the media infrastructure. And seeing Benji making a PCM series about Tudor, for example, if he is doing that about our team, brings extra value. If, for example, you have a media outlet more on the journalism side of the infrastructure, I think it's really good to cooperate and being them as the office. For example, that you guys always analyze the race that we are doing, even if it's Ronde van Drenthe, it would be really nice. And um, I think using those kind of different um, media, I think can bring way more extra value to a team, for example, than doing everything by yourself.
Yeah, and it's tough to know where you stand. Like we ran into that a little bit this year with the Visma announcement. Like, what side of the lines do we sit on? But yeah, I don't know. It sounds good also to be brought into the traditional fold. It sounds good. You want to be accepted, but then I think once you get over there, you realize actually what you
Yeah.
have and you're doing here is actually really good. We say what we want. We turn on the camera whenever we want it. We, make make a good living out of it. Like, I think there's in the traditional media sense, it wouldn't be as fun.
I think that how I see it from my end, I feel like this is what I want to do when I can achieve it. And traditional media is the backup if something falls apart. Is that a weird way to say it?
Yeah, like if you, I don't know, the podcast dies, God forbid, you go be,
Please no.
I don't know,
No,
you do the Vila Flits podcast or something, or like, yeah, I know what you mean.
but it's gonna be for us the same scary moments as well, because now it's the first time, maybe this year as well, that we really dive into the cycling world by ourselves. Normally, we were those guys with funny videos about other teams, and now we are gonna be the guys in the cycling world. So yeah, that's gonna be completely different than 2 or 3 years ago.
Who of the team is going to win the TDT Unibet Ronde van Overijssel Wheelie Challenge?
Uh, to be honest, I can do not even 1 meter. But yeah, I heard there was one guy, for example, I guess it was Martijn Budding with the cyclocross background that can do a pretty long wheelie.
Right, we'll look forward to that. Thanks for coming on, Bas, and talking about the team's plans and I guess the broader cycling landscape. Really interesting to hear your perspective as both a rider and I guess the founder and co-creator of this team. We'll keep watching everything Tietema does across social media this year. I look forward to the team progressing and even going to Pro Conti in 2024. Very ambitious, but I like the ambition. Thanks for coming on.
Yeah. Thanks you guys. And it's not ambitious. It's gonna be there, Patrick.
I like it.
I'm gonna call you as a UCI agent for some guys from Andorra.
I've had to. I'm not doing it. I can't do it. I'm not doing it for the next 2 years.
Oh,
With the Yumbo stuff, I just
then I call Benji.
yeah, call Benji for advice.
Yeah. I'll pretend to be a UCI agent, and I'll just get into the DMs of riders, and I'll be like, I've got this great pro team from the Netherlands that is going to be World Tour in 2 years, going to win the Tour de France in 3 years. They want you.
Yeah, maybe I'll tell Wolf and 2027 when he's probably signed until 2030. Maybe when he's 40, he can ride. But yeah, all right. Thanks, Bus. Talk to you later in the
Thanks, guys.
season. Bye.